Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Poets and Quants' online MBA panel, Finding the Right Fit. Today, we're joined by admission experts from 3 elite programs, SMU Cox, Purdue Daniels, and Florida Warrington. I'm your host, Christy Blyzeffer of Poets and Quants, and please feel free to use the Q&A function to submit any questions you have for our panelists. I'll do my best to get to them at the end of the session. So let's begin by getting to know all of you. If you could please take a few seconds to introduce yourself and your school. And Nicole, we'll start with you.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Belargin, and I serve as the Associate Director of Admissions for the online MBA program at SMU Cox. I think just a bit about my background. So I've been at SMU for almost 3 years, and I have experience in the program as well as a student. And so I'm happy to kind of speak to the student experience as well as the admissions experience. Thank you for having me today.
Very good. Thank you. And Steve, how about you?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Bush. I am the Senior Online Program Manager for the Online MBA at Purdue University Online Daniels School of Business. I've been with the college now for about 2 years, working in higher ed for just over 13 years at this point, and I'm excited to talk to you all a little bit more today about the MBA space and specifically what we may have to offer you.
Great. Thank you. And how about you, Naz?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Naz Arangouch. I am the Director of Admissions for the University of Florida MBA program here at the Warrington College of Business. And I've been with the program for about 13 years at this point. It feels like I started yesterday, but, and I have tons of experience. I was an undergrad, master's student, and PhD student all at the University of Florida. So I truly bleed orange and blue.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Nicole, we'll just go ahead and kick off our questions with you. Tell us a little bit more about your online MBA program, how long it's been around, how long it generally takes to complete, and what level of flexibility there is in the program.
Sure. I am so used to doing these panels on like an interaction type of basis where people can pop more questions. So anyway, if I miss things, I think just let me know as we go. But I think a couple things about our program. So we've been around since 2019. And then in the online MBA space, so our curriculum is designed for 24 months. So it's a 2-year curriculum. And I'd just say that vast majority of our students, take between 2 to 3 years to finish the program, but you will have up to 6 years to finish the curriculum. And so, with that being said, it is very flexible. It is kind of a lock and step program in the sense that in your first year to year and a half, you're taking electives with a cohort. And so we can talk more about that later. But basically, as the program goes on, we have elective spaces at the end. So you can take 7 electives at the end of the program. We have a concentration that you can have in strategy and entrepreneurship, which is exciting. And then, like I was kind of mentioning with that hybrid flexibility. So as you get toward the latter half of the program, if you wanted to take those electives on campus, so let's just say that you're in the DFW Metroplex, you wanted to drive over and experience some on-campus classes, you'd have that flexibility to come and take a class on campus if you'd want to do that, or if you're able to do that.
Very good. Thank you. And Steve, how about at Peru? I'm sorry, Purdue.
That's quite all right. Purdue University, our online MBA program has been around since 2020. What I do want to highlight when I say that date, because I'm sure that it triggers a few thoughts for some of us, given the things that were going on in our world at that time. The program was not the result of the pandemic or a knee-jerk response. We were actually planning to launch the program at the beginning of 2019. We began plans to open up in the online MBA space, and we've been doing so successfully since then. Students generally take somewhere around 2 to 2.5 years to go ahead and finish our program with a ceiling of 5 years. And it's a carousel style program. It's the way we like to go ahead and describe it, meaning that we are not a true locked-up cohorted program. Students can come in and out of the program as they please, making it super flexible for working adults, especially working adults with a family as well. I know what that's like, trying to finish a master's degree. We have 4 specializations that students can take part in. We're also bringing on a 5th specialization coming on this spring 2024 in marketing analytics. We could talk more about that a little bit later as to what the other 4 are. And all this carousel style program leads you through 48 credit hours that will allow you to obtain your online MBA degree through Purdue University.
Very good. And Naz, how about you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we are unique in that we have been offering our online MBA program since 1999. And so we are excited to be coming up on our 25th year anniversary of launching our online program this upcoming spring. And so with our online program, we're a little bit different than the two other schools here today, in that we offer actually two formats: a 48 credit hour 2-year program for any undergraduate major, or a 32 credit hour 1-year program. It's actually just a little bit more than 1 year, about 16 months, for those that already have a business degree within the last 7 years. So if you need a highly flexible asynchronous format, whether you're looking at a 1-year or a 2-year program, then UFMBA offers our online programs 3 times a year. So we have a fall, spring, and summer start date. Additionally, as I said, we are an asynchronous program, so you're able to download your lectures and watch them at whatever pace, convenience that works for you. We recognize that the average student, actually, I would say 99% of our students are working a full-time job, managing families, lives, professional lives, personal lives, all of that, and now the added of school. So we say the average weekly time commitment is going to be about 15 to 20 hours a week. And so all of those lectures are pre-recorded. So you're able within the UFMBA program to download your lectures, go at your own pace. You're going to take about 2 classes at a time. It is still cohort based, where you start with a group, you end with a group, you take virtually the same courses from start to finish, except for an experiential learning course that you have a number of ways to satisfy, which I will talk about here later on. But the one big thing that I will tell you is that we start both of these programs, like I said, 3 times a year, and there's only one campus residency requirement for orientation. Students get to come experience the swamp all day Friday, all day Saturday, really get to know your cohort mates. And that's something that we really are proud about, because it allows for that camaraderie to start even before the onset of the program. And that kind of is attributed to the fact that we have a graduation retention rate of over 93%.
Very good. Steve, do you mind kind of describing the class profile of at Purdue?
Yeah, most definitely. We've got a great class profile as far as diversity of students from where they come from, their type of academic background, along with their professional background as well. Typically, we're seeing students right in the 32 to 35 age range with about 8 years of professional work experience. When it comes to that work experience in particular, people that might be familiar with the Purdue name, they know that we are known for our engineering school. We are also known for taking a data-driven approach when it comes to solving real-world business problems, and that's what we aim to do in the Daniel School of Business with the online MBA. So we tend to attract those in the manufacturing industry a little bit more often than not. We also have some engineering students who enjoy taking our MBA program too, given that it is based in that data-driven approach. We're about 40% female, 60% male. So we have a pretty good split of male to female students within our cohort and program overall. And because we're 100% online and asynchronous, we're able to provide access to our world-class education throughout the entire world itself. So we serve 18 different countries, 31 different states here domestically, allowing students to interact with each other from not just different parts of the world, but different market sectors of the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Naz, how about at Warrington?
Yeah, so, in this last year, to give you some perspective, we admitted 355 online 1-year and 2-year students. So, that is kind of a good, we'll talk about this later on with the networking component, but of that 355 that we admitted, I'll tell you that about 33% were female, our average GPA was right around a 3.2 with 7 years of professional experience, of course, similar to what Steve was saying, from all different sectors, functional areas, and industries. I would say that with an online program, being that where we are located in the 3rd largest state, that we have about 40% of our students coming from inside the state of Florida. Of course, the other 60% are coming from beyond the Florida borders. And so then to give you some more perspective about 12, I ran the numbers, it was about 12 or 15%, depending on which cohort, 1 year, 2 year, represented 5 of the 7 military branches, and our underrepresented minority was right around 30%. So we were super excited of how diverse and professionally versed our students were, because that really adds back to the value of the network that our students will build.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Nicole, how about at SMU Cox?
Sure. And I realized, I think just because I went first for the last question, I was like, this is an important thing for students to know. We are a fully synchronous program. So I hope that that is, something that everybody can keep in mind just as we're moving forward. What that means is that as you're taking classes live online with a 15 to 20 student course on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. So if you're wanting kind of that engagement live classroom experience, that's maybe a differentiator with SMU. But then to speak to kind of who we've accepted, or our background, this is also important. That's kind of a differentiator. We are a fairly small business school in the sense that we have those small class sizes, small cohort sizes, but very well known alumni network, especially in Texas and especially in the Midwest region. So anyway, our cohort from the fall, I pulled all of our stats, so I have them pulled up. We had 40 students that came through in fall of 2023, and I'd say that that's a little bit smaller than our average. We average probably around 50 to 60, but we did have a 40 student cohort in the fall. In terms of our GPA, it's very comparable with what we were talking about, so around a 3.0. And then in terms of students, we had 30% women in this cohort, and we had 48% underrepresented minorities in this cohort. And then also, similar to Purdue, we had around 8 years of work experience. And so that's what we saw as an average. But just to throw this out there, we accept students with 2 years of work experience all the way to like 16 plus. So it's just a very variable program. I love to talk about the fact that we had over 35 unique companies represented, and then 9 US states. And I think in terms of the background of these students, so maybe half of our students have a business background, but that's important because the other half is coming back with a liberal arts education or STEM or engineering or whatever other world they're involved in. They're just coming back for that general business degree. The last thing, veterans. So thank you for touching on this, Naz, as well. We are a yellow ribbon school. So if you're somebody who's looking to apply your GI benefits, I'd say that you'd be able to find that here.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. That was for all of you, very a great representation classes from all these schools. Naz, let's talk about kind of going beyond the academic credentials and test scores. How do you assess a prospect's fit with the personality and demands of your MBA?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. At the end of the day, I think we can all talk about the fact that so much of an MBA program is about networking, and it's about working in teams, right? And so, nobody works in silos. Maybe sometimes we wish we did, but nonetheless, we're always going to be working with suppliers, vendors, and colleagues on whatever projects. And that's the same in an MBA program. Whether you're looking at a synchronous or an asynchronous MBA program, I can tell you that, by and large, all of our programs will require teamwork at some form, fashion along the way. And so for me, I pride my team and I on, if we've curated a good group of students, then of course the classmates, they're excited to roll up their sleeves and have fruitful conversations in their, whether it be their online discussion boards or in their one-on-one kind of more smaller group team chats. And so what I think really boils down to what makes a good candidate is somebody who's able to articulate why they want to do this MBA. They have enough self-awareness to understand what they bring to the table and how this can be a value add. And I think having that self-awareness, having the grit, doing an MBA part-time, it's not an easy task, right? But it's something that, if you have enough grit and tenacity and you have that will, you can do it. And so that's something, even on the application side, I'm looking for candidates that have demonstrated that they can, they can move past difficult times or big work projects where they're having to juggle multiple things, because that will demonstrate to me that they're ready to roll up their sleeves and do this MBA. Of course, having a good GPA helps. Having a strong quantitative background helps. We aren't requiring the GMAT or the GRE currently for our online program, which actually makes it even more important for my team and I to have conversations with each and every one of our candidates to really get a feel for who they are and what their driving factor for doing an MBA is. And we recognize that not everybody's doing it for the exact same reason, but I always, tell my team, if you want to continue that conversation with somebody after that 20-minute interview, then that is a great sign that they will be a value add to the program, because they will be able to understand how they can add value to this larger cohort and this larger group of Gators.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, how about at SMU Cox? How are you guys kind of assessing for fit?
Sure. So I wrote down our 3 pillars for the business school, and I hope that this is helpful to just kind of frame who we are. But we have leadership, we have analytics, and experiential learning. And so I guess what I would just say is that we look at candidates holistically, going back to that idea of, we're a small MBA cohort. And so, an interview is required for every student to be admitted to the business school. And so we have an interview of, 45-ish minutes per student, maybe an hour. But the purpose of this is just to get to know who you are, your work history, your background. I think a lot of students come in and they're like, I have a super low GPA. Like, am I a good candidate? And so I think that it's our role just to say, like, we want to default yes before we default no. Like, I think we're always trying to understand you and understand like what you're bringing to the program as a person and in terms of character. And so anyway, I love that Naz brought up grit, because actually our current essay right now, we have 2 essays that are required for admission. And one of them says, talk about a time of resilience or grit, just because, it is a working professional program. And so much of it is just like, how are you going to be working through the challenging course material? Like, if we admit you, we want you to be successful and to finish with us. So I guess we're just looking at candidates holistically in terms of, is this somebody that we want to be a part of our team projects and to represent our school? And we try to default yes if we're able.
Yeah, great. And Steve, how about at Purdue?
So both Nicole and Naz gave some great answers to this question, and things that we also do here at Purdue University. So without reiterating what they said or being redundant here, I will just say, yes, we do have a very heavy teamwork component when it comes to our program. 68% of the courses are going to be founded in teamwork. We do have a holistic application process that is ended with an interview with myself, the program manager, and we look at the application from a higher standpoint, as opposed to just looking at the individual criteria that are listed on the application. And although the decision is going to start with that foundation of GPA, work experience, we want to go into some of those deeper questions. I loved what Naz said about, why do you want to pursue this MBA? That's a question that students will get asked a lot. But also something that wasn't mentioned that I could add to the conversation is, how do you know this is the next step for you? How do you know you're moving in the right direction? And that is going to come with the level of professional experience that individuals are going to gain after being out in the workforce for about 3 to 5 years, to really understand, okay, how do I fit in my current industry? How do I fit in my current functional area? And how is this MBA going to differentiate me, or bolster the skills that I have, or improve the skills that I have moving forward in my career pathway?
Yeah, very important. Well, Nicole, when we think about all the students looking at programs are probably looking at quite a few different ones. What advice do you have about how they choose the program that's right for them, their career aspirations and personal values? What questions do you suggest they ask? Maybe who should they reach out to talk to? Nicole, what advice from you?
This question it could have so many answers. So I'm excited that we all get the chance to answer, because I feel like it's a lot. I wrote down a couple, and I'm going to miss some, but I think that what I would say is the first thing would just be to know your priorities. So I think going back to the, why do you want your MBA? So I think being able to figure out what your priorities are with the program. I guess even with this panel, it's relevant to think about, like, do you want an asynchronous format or a synchronous format? Do you want a part-time program? Do you want a full-time program? Do you want something in person on the weekends, or do you want something online? I think that all those questions are not questions that we can answer for you necessarily as admissions professionals. It would be up to you to answer the questions of how you want this MBA. I know that our assistant dean, Jill, she always says, like, you only get to do this once. And so I think it's worth asking yourself, like, how do you want to do this? And so those are just some important questions to ask. I think as you're continuing and you decide that part-time online is the right fit, here's a couple of other things to consider: the length of completion for the program, the size of the cohort, how the classes are conducted, the faculty, and then also, this is important, but what are the support resources for online students versus your in-person students? Are they the same? Do they vary? What kind of support are you hoping for? So I think that it's worth knowing that going in. And then this is really important, but from the career management side, what are the outcomes of that program, and do they match the return on investment that you're wanting out of your MBA? And so I think just being able to ask the questions on like how, the salary increases, the promotional opportunities, the connections for alums, those are all things that you want to be looking for. And then the last question, so who should you be talking to? I think that everybody on the call has talked about an interview process for their admissions. And so I'd just say ask those questions in your admissions interview, but like, who else should I be connected with? We connect veterans with our Veterans Affairs office. We connect financial aid with financial aid office. And of course, like those are going to get you your answers as you decide if this is the path you want to go.
Yeah. Steve, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, on top of the things that Nicole said, what I would really want to focus on, because I would echo her sentiments in her answer, but talking to alumni, that is going to be one of the #1 indicators as to whether or not you're really going to fit into the program by your own standards. Speaking with somebody that that has been through the program, that has experienced the things that Daniels Online or SMU or Warrington has given them, and really understanding from a student perspective what you're going to encounter. We, of course, as program managers, admissions directors, different functions throughout the admission space within our respective schools, we're going to have a very different view of our program and what a student goes through and what they need to commit to than compared to an actual student who went through our program. So I would highly recommend talking to alumni, getting connected with alumni. We do bring alumni into our webinars that we have for Daniels School of Business Online MBA. So we give that perspective there as well, and just really get a good handle of what the student experience is from somebody who has actually been through the program, in conjunction with talking to that program manager, admissions director, senior recruiter, so on and so forth.
Yeah, very important there. Naz, what about you?
Yeah, and I think that to Nicole and Steve's point, I mean, there's so many great questions to be asking, the accreditation, who's going to be teaching you, who's, like who will you share this experience with, average cohort size, the formats, so I think all of those are fantastic. And Steve, to your point about even the alumni, like what does your alumni look like? Because of course, we are paid, to talk about our programs, and our alums aren't. They are just fantastic ambassadors, and they've gone through it firsthand to know what the experience is all about. But oftentimes when I talk to prospective students, there are a couple of things that I encourage them to consider. Is that there are so many MBA programs out there that are transactional, right? You go, you take your classes, you get your grades, and then, at the end of X period of time, you earn your degree. I would encourage you to ask the questions of what above and beyond the classroom experience, that transactional component, will you be able to participate in? Not dissimilar to what, Nicole's assistant dean Jill was talking about. Like, this is an opportunity to do this program and do it once. And by and large, most of our students who are looking at doing professional programs, they're a few years removed from their undergraduate, right? Like, so Steve's program, they're average 8 years out. Like, this is your opportunity to go and relive college at a different level, because there's a certain level of intentionality that maybe you get to, yeah, maybe you're juggling all these other things, but at the end of the day, you get to wake up on Monday morning after watching a lecture in Operations Supply Chain Management, and they're talking immediately about an ROI of how you can implement what you're learning in the classroom into your work setting. Now, beyond that, when I talk about the transformative process of an MBA program, that transformative process goes back to how has a program invested in the student experience so it goes above and beyond the transactional nature. So things to be asking would be, what beyond the classroom opportunities does that program have to offer? Do they offer a dedicated career coach? Are there opportunities to come to campus ever, to go on a global immersion experience and spend 1 week abroad? Alumni networking events, or certificates. So, in fact, we just this past week had a faculty do an immersive 1 week in Python. We offer Lean Six Sigma. We do a series of opportunities in professional development and storytelling that are all co-curricular opportunities that all of our students, we encourage them to participate in. It's not required, but that coupled with the opportunity to go a week abroad and spend a week in Athens or spend a week in Buenos Aires, where our students just came back a couple weeks ago. These are all things above and beyond the classroom or virtual space that will really make this experience that much richer. And so as an online student, I encourage you to ask the question of what beyond the classroom, who beyond the classroom will be dedicated to my success, whether it be, a dedicated career coach, an academic advisor, a person that's focused on professional and personal development. And in fact, even at Warrington for the last year, we've had a well-being and performance director that's solely focused on how can you not only work on your resilience, because resilience training isn't what we should be doing every day. It should be how do you thrive and really manage everything at the best of your ability so that you can be the leader that we know you can be.
Yeah, well, our next question ties in, very nicely to beyond the classroom. And I think it's one that a lot of students are very interested in when they're considering an online MBA. And Steve, that is, how does your online program replicate like the networking, mentorship, career development opportunities that are so front and center of that full person or that full-time in-person MBA?
So one of the things that I hear a lot from applicants that I'm sure the others on the call here might be able to relate to as well is, how do I network online? How do I, how do I develop these relationships? You can't do that online. I'll hear that too sometimes. You can't do those things online. And I challenge applicants all the time and say, well, why can't you? There's plenty of opportunities to do so. And much like in an in-person experience, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. You could go to an in-person class twice a week at a given time on a given date and be there live during the lecture and totally just check out mentally, go to sleep, not pay attention. The same thing in an online forum. You could do the same things. You could be mic off, you could be camera off and not engage with other individuals. If you choose to be. Being an online student myself and working in higher ed and seeing online education and where it was and where it's come to today, yes, it's a different way, it's a different modality to network, but we definitely have times and places and opportunities for students to go ahead and to network with each other virtually through the different platforms that we utilize within our program itself. So to get into that a little bit, starting with just the networking piece itself, we do have virtual networking events that are social based, that are professional development based, and are co-curricularly based as well, that may cover an academic topic that is going on through a course at a given time in a given space. And that's going to be coordinated by our student success coaches who work as an engagement team to bring students in to those different types of synchronous events. And if you're not able to attend synchronously for any reason, we do post those things later within the learning management system that students are able to engage with and access. When it comes to mentorship, you just heard me say student success coach. We have dedicated online staff, success coaches, who are not just worried about the academic success of a student, but they're also worried about those external things that are occurring outside of the classroom that may be affecting the student internally within the classroom as well. So they are there to help a student through difficult times, whether that's a personal matter that's affecting their academic work, or maybe connecting them to tutoring services or other resources throughout the college as well, in order to make sure that they are performing academically too. We have business career services within Daniel's online programs. And when we talk about business career services, it's not just your typical career services that you would expect to get at an undergraduate level. We have professionals that know how to write a cover letter, have been through an interview, know how to do their resume, right? Business career services at the graduate level, what they're going to do is all of our staff within that area are going to be executive coach certified, and they're going to be able to give our students that final coat of polish to maybe propel them into the C-suite, as that's where a lot of our students see themselves once they go ahead and they get ready to graduate from our program.
Yeah, thank you very much. Naz, how about the networking, mentorship, career development at your school? Hello, Naz?
Sorry, no, my internet just cut out for a second. I was like, I didn't hear. Oh, sorry, my apologies. So with the career coaching, so I'll tell you that with Warrington, we have the same dedicated career coach who oversees all of our graduate business programs. So in fact, we have a dedicated career coach for our full-time students, for our online one-year students, for our online two-year students, as well as for our executive MBAs. And so the great thing about that is that not only do they all have industry experience, but like I said, everybody gets access to the same career course. And so everything that we're offering from start to finish is the same. It then is up to the student to determine how much, or how little they're choosing to use their services. And I'll tell you that another thing that I always tell prospective students is leverage your network. You have over 800 enrolled MBA students at Warrington at any given time. You have over 12,000 Warrington or UF MBA alums out there and 500,000 Gators globally. Leveraging your network above and beyond what the career coaches have to offer will most certainly help you as you want to, make a pivot or move within your company, or, look at something altogether new. Usually about a third if our students are looking to grow within their organizations, a third are looking to make a career pivot, and a third are looking to get this MBA in case, the opportunity arises that they can make that shift. And so recognizing that we have a vast network of not only your peers that are hearing about who's hiring within their organizations, coupled with our career coaches that encourage our students to participate in all of their events, whether it's career showcases or, a variety of corporate virtual info sessions. There's so many ways to connect. And so networking, I would say starts even before a student enrolls. And we do a lot of different opportunities, both virtually as well as in person and regionally. We travel all over and usually try to connect with our students, especially when we're on the road. It's a great way to connect some Gators.
Yeah, thank you. And Nicole, how about at SMU Cox?
Sure. So I think the short answer, I was thinking about this question. You had opened by saying like, how is the online experience replicated? And I feel like I'll just open to say that it's the same. So for us, it's not replicated. I would say, we're a small MBA program in general. And so because of that, there is very significant crossover with our full-time programs, our online students, our in-person students. Like, I think that in terms of who can sign up for these online classes, we see a lot of that crossover. So in terms of networking, you're getting a lot of that live. So anyway, networking is kind of built into how our program is structured. So because our classes are capped at that 15 to 20, and because they are camera off and they're live, I would just say that you're getting that networking, in-person experience from the beginning of the program onward. I know that Naz was talking about immersions earlier as well. So we have an immersion experience that's required as a part of our MBA. And so I think that's where I hear a lot of that significant like networking in person really does happen. You'd have the flexibility as a student to pick where you go in terms of like which trip you want to go on. But that's where I hear a lot of that like online connections really happens. And I think the last thing that just is, I don't know, kind of special. I feel like everything else has been touched on with like the virtual career fairs or with like the virtual networking, which we have like those webinars available. But I guess I would just say what pops in my head is that we meet everybody through an interview that comes through our program. And so because of that, we put you into study groups, like even upon starting the program. So your study group is like 5 to 6 people from different industry backgrounds, from different experience backgrounds. But we try and put you in a similar group. So we have our Florida people, or we have like our Tennessee people. We put the East Coast people together. So like for time zone purposes, you can actually meet up and, connect for your group projects. So anyway, I think there's a lot of intentionality and thoughtfulness on, how we network when it comes to the online space. Yes, I think that's everything that we wanted to cover. I guess, sorry, one other thing that popped in my head. In syllabi, so like in the syllabuses that we have for these students, a lot of our faculty members at SMU are just like so willing to even give out cell phone numbers or arrange office hours or whatever. So I think that we see that in the full-time space and the online part-time space. It's just like this idea of availability. It's just virtual availability, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Naz, kind of going, kind of continuing on the same line, talk about the opportunities that they have to kind of get involved in like student organizations or, just like campus-wide events. What's the kind of, campus connection they can form?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Christine. So the way that our online program, because it is a cohort-based model, you're going to get to know your, let's call it 50 to 70 peers very, very well. You all kind of become your own family, if you will, and there's high-level connectivity with your immediate classmates. But of course, then, so much of what you do will be team-based. So you'll get to know your classmate, your immediate team members very, very well. And of course, as an online student, there's a little bit of a different mentality of clubs and organizations. They're not necessarily coming to campus to be a part of our MBA association or, sell our MBA merchandise because they're not physically here in Gainesville. But what we do is there's a lot of things that we still have our students do to connect across various networks across our MBA portfolio. And so that kind of goes back to that networking component. So, but we do have special kind of affinity groups, if you will. We have our inclusive excellence team. So if any student wants to be a part of, our diversity, equity, and inclusion and access endeavors, they can participate in those events, whether they be in person or virtual. We obviously, at UFMBA have a strong military and veteran presence. And so we oftentimes will see our students who will kind of, group together, but then we also see students that kind of group together based on companies or locations. And so a lot of the informal, kind of, I'm not going to say clubs or organizations, but informal networking occurs that way too. And then there's just a ton that happens around coming back to campus. And one of the big ones that we actually just experienced a few weeks ago is we had homecoming. So we had over 700 of our current students and alums RSVP, and many of which attended this, homecoming game. And not that that was a club or an organization per se, but it really kind of brought students together in a new fun environment. And oftentimes, we see our online students come to Gainesville and it's their really first big opportunity to experience the college football life. So
yeah. Nicole, what about SMU Cox? What opportunities for student groups and organizations?
Sure. So I guess in short, we have, just over 20 student clubs and organizations that people can join in the online space. And that means fully online engagement. So, you'd be guaranteed to be able to participate wherever you are. But what I'd say is obviously we have far more than that. If you're interested and you're in the DFW area, majority of our student clubs and organizations are going to be housed in kind of two camps. We have a lot of identity-based groups. So, like women in business or like the National Black Association for MBA. We kind of have the identity-based affinity groups. And then we also have industry groups. And so in the industry space, it'll be like our real estate club or the consulting club. So you can kind of join what you're interested in. But this one made me laugh. In terms of some other involvement, whenever I heard about this, I just was like, that's so cool. That's very clever. Some of our student clubs are really interested in bringing those online students in person. And so we actually had an event, I think a year or two ago, that was called Promba, and it was prom, but online MBA. And so if that just tells you, that was completely student run. So yeah, now, Promba happens every year or every semester or something. And so I'd just say if you want that type of engagement, of course, if you're available to come into town for those in-person opportunities, you can. You can also participate online. The last thing, we have this center here. It's an extracurricular center that's run, by the university. It's called the BLC, so the Business Leadership Center, and they offer webinars and seminars that are just professional development based. So they're not giving you course credit. They're more just kind of a seminar on wealth creation or a seminar on team building. And so if you wanted to participate in their online offerings, you'd be able to do that as well.
Yeah, very good. Steve, how about at Purdue?
So similarly to Nicole, we do have identity-based groups. We also have academic and professionally based groups as well. Our groups are run by the students and they are initiated by the students as well. So they are fully student owned and fully student run. What they like to do generally, and I'm just thinking of two groups in particular that had recent events, was first of all, the former Cranert, now Daniels Lions. This is a group where they are identity based. They identify as 40 and over, 40 years and older and over professionals. Say that 10 times fast. But of course, they take all members regardless of age. They are more professional based as far as the program that they have, and they like to bring in different types of speakers from inside and outside of the university in order to give professional development talks to the individuals within the organization and to anybody from Daniel's online programs who wants to receive additional mentorship. We also have a group recently that did a professional development session and workshop through Clifton Strengths Training, and they were our human resources management affinity group. Those are just two examples of the groups that we have. Students are welcome to create any type of interest group that they would like to go ahead and create just by working with our success coaches in order to develop that engagement group and to work on the infrastructure from there. We also have another very active group on campus that does a lot, not just for other prospective students, but for our program itself. And those are the Daniel's Online Program student ambassadors. These ambassadors are individuals that come to live events, come to virtual events, attend different types of opportunities to interact with new prospects and applicants, to tell them a little bit more about those experiences, as I was talking about earlier, and to really display what Daniel School of Business has done for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank each of you. I appreciate all the time and expertise you shared with us. And also, of course, thanks to all our listeners out there for spending, the last 40 minutes learning about these three, really great online MBA programs. And remember that you can find a lot of other interviews with a lot of other great programs on our Poets and Quants YouTube channel. So be sure to check those out. And until next time, have a great rest of your day.